All right, welcome everybody. As you can tell, it's October 31st, at least here's somebody dressed as a mosquito that wants to bite me. It's October 31st, 2022 here in Maui. It's already November for some of us in India and other places to the west of us. And this is the Open Hearted Practice Group, Trick or Treat. And we're going to have some fun today exploring intuition and how nonviolent communication can support intuition. And also, we're going to cover, I love it, Isabel. I think Zoom has some built in masks if you want to put a mask on through Zoom. I think that's what Isabel did. Yeah. And I actually like hers better than mine. It's kind of looks like a jaguar. And hi, Tamar, welcome. Yeah. So if you're here for the very first time, you've come in at a very weird moment, as you can tell. But we don't usually dress up in costumes, but I thought it would be fun to do that today. And well, if you're here for the first time, I just want to explain what we do. It's a practice group in nonviolent communication. Nonviolent communication is a process developed by Marshall Rosenberg, starting in the late 1960s, and then Marshall just died in I don't know, what was it, 2015, I think it was. And so he built a network of trainers around the world. Joy and I have been trainers since 2003. And each week we come together here to support an international group in practicing nonviolent communication. And we do it with practicing NVC just with ourselves. NVC is kind of the nickname for nonviolent communication. When we're doing it just with ourselves, we call that self-empathy or self-connection or self-compassion. And then we'll also do some practice with honesty, which is the speaking part, and empathy, which is the listening part. We've been doing this group online since shortly after the pandemic began. And we went from a teeny tiny practice group, which was in our training room, which is right next door to where I'm pointing here. And we would have maybe 10 to 15 people each week, maybe 20 on a really big week. And now typically we have between 30 and 50 people here from all around the world. It's really become a lot of fun to get to meet friends from around the world each week. So I'm going to go ahead and invite you to do a self-connection exercise. Self-connection is just a self-connection exercise just means I'm going to guide you to explore your own direct experience. So I won't be trying to hypnotize you or lead you in any particular way. I'm just going to guide you to notice what's actually happening for you. As a way to start practicing nonviolent communication, especially the skills of presence and observing to start with. So you're present. Notice that you're present here. You made a choice to be here. And we're still gathering. And so I invite you to gather yourself into this moment. And you're probably looking at a screen of some sort. Just notice that you're doing that. Bring attention to what you're already doing. This is a part of presence and a part of observing. And if you want to close your eyes and just relax for a few minutes, you can do that. Closing the eyes just supports you in being more connected to your body. So just notice what happens if you decide to close your eyes. It's likely that the other senses become heightened, become more aware of sounds. You may become more aware of textures, noticing where your hands are touching. It's smooth or rough or warm or cool and so forth. You may become more aware of aromas. And if you're enjoying a piece of Halloween candy, you might be aware of a taste. Maybe you've been drinking something recently or eating something. There may be a leftover taste in your mouth. You may also be aware of thoughts. This is the all examples of this skill called observing. And you could also have opinions about what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think. That's what we call evaluations. Nothing wrong with that. Without evaluation, we would not be able to handle any of the practical things, like walking up steps. We're constantly evaluating the height of one step compared to the next and so forth. Can get tricky when our evaluations get mixed in with moral judgments of right and wrong and good and bad. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. Just might get in the way of connection. And you can notice that with the skill of observing. And then just letting go for the moment of the world of the senses, and tune into your body. You may be aware of something that feels painful in your body. I'm noticing just a little slight tightness in the back of my neck, slight headache, quality of openness in my heart, my chest area. What's it like for you? Just notice your body with that same attitude of observing. Sometimes, if there's something really present in your awareness, you can name the sensation. Notice first and then name. That can have a centering, settling effect on your nervous system. From noticing and naming, you can move into openness or allowing. Just being with whatever sensations you notice in your body. These sensations, sometimes we add more richness to our sensations and call those emotions. Things like sadness, anger, annoyance, frustration. If you're noticing some emotions, You can follow the same kind of process. First notice, then name, if it has a name, then allow. These sensations and emotions are giving you information that something matters, something's important to you. It's pointing to your needs. So, what's important to you right now? What needs motivated you to come to the practice group today? And they continue to motivate you to stay. What's that about for you? This is also important to just first notice the needs as they arise, name them if they have a name, and then allow yourself to be a human being with needs. If this is a brand new concept for you, this idea of needs, then I'll just make a few guesses about why you might be here. Maybe you're here for learning, for community, for growth, fun, stimulation, peace, something else. So if your eyes have been closed, you can let them open and look around again. Look around at who we are. If your camera is off and you're willing to turn it on, we're going to go to small groups, and people usually enjoy it when cameras are on in the small groups. We're going to do a small group for about 10 minutes. And I'm trying to deal with a request here that came in the chat. So I think I'll try to work on this in a minute, Siva, because I'm not quite clear on your request. So anyway, we'll be back here in about 10 minutes. What do people say, what do we do in the small group? It's just a chance to practice NVC, whatever that means to you, or to practice communicating with each other. So you'll get a chance to be honest. You can say what's alive in you about your experience of this self-connection exercise or the group so far. You get a chance to practice empathy, which is just the listening part. No need to say anything in empathy, although you are free to reflect if you're moved to do that, to reflect what you heard the other person say. That's also fine. We'll do this for about 9 minutes plus 1 minute at the end, just to finish up. And then we'll come back and see what happens next. A few people have marked that they don't want to go to a group by putting an equal sign in front of their name. If that's true for you, then you can do that, or just come back here to the main room as soon as you go to the small group. Once you're in the small group, there's nothing, you don't need to do anything to come back here. Once the group is over, you'll automatically come. And so now I see something here that might meet. It's so interesting. Okay, I see the person that you mentioned, but they're not showing up on my other list, which is really mysterious. But anyway, we'll move on to the group, and I'll work on that other piece later, Siva. So for the other group. All right, we will see you back here in about 10 minutes. Okay. So now there's probably a variety of feelings that have just emerged for you, given that some of you were right in the middle of talking when Zoom decided it was time to Zoom you back here. Other people were maybe relieved that the small group was over, and some people might be disappointed, might be all kinds of things going on for you. So just notice, let that be the first step to notice how you're feeling right now coming back after that last experience. It's fun to see your faces. It's really I see Nikhilananda is here with his camera on now. You're dressed as someone running for political office today. It's really a clever costume. Yeah. And it seems like I saw another person that had a costume on. Those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, I'll put my mask on just so you can see what people were greeted with when people first arrived, and maybe Tanya will put her mask on. There you go. And there's Karen. Siva's dressed as Siva. She's got headphones on. She looks like a radio personality.
Jim, can you lean in a little closer?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Somebody said it looked like a combination of a giraffe and a pig. I tried not to take it personally. Siva, your hand is up. Go ahead.
I noticed that Sarah Joy is here. I don't see her on my screen, but I saw her name in the chat, and she said, now she's waving. She said she was going to have some surgery, and I'm glad that you're here. I hope you're feeling better. Has it been successful?
Thank you. Yes, well wishes to you, Sarah Joy. I'm glad you're here. And
went smoothly. Thank you.
Yeah. And is that complete for you, Siva?
And no, and Ezra sent me a text that she was so wiped out. So I think she and Jory ran off together to go trick-or-treating.
There you go. That sounds good.
And Tanya was in the middle of the sentence, and I'd like you to finish it. And we were talking about anger. When you notice that something is making you feel angry, you have three choices: fight, flight, or freeze. And I wanted to hear more about the freeze.
That's a request of Tanya?
Both of you.
Oh, it never freezes in Hawaii, Siva. It's always warm here. Tanya, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, so flight, fright, freeze are fight, flight, and freeze are the responses to traumatic experience. So those are what those three are.
Yeah.
In other words, when we experience something that is too fast or too loud or too big, well, our body is wired to fight it, to run from it, or to freeze in indecision. So those are those three parts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what happened to my giraffe ears? Oh, there they are. So I think Marshall had that intuition as well. So we'll talk more about this today too. This is jackal ears. jackal ears out, that's fight. That's the fight energy. And jackal ears in can be experienced as either fleeing or freezing, either one, depending on how severe a hit your nervous system takes. And there's one other jackal ears out one that I learned about from a guy named Lieutenant Colonel something David, maybe David Grossman. But he's talking about he was a professor at the Army at West Point or Army War College or something like that. But he noticed that in combat situations and then post-traumatic stress situations, there's another thing that often comes up, which is posturing, which is where you kind of blow yourself up and get really big and try to get the other person to freeze or back down. Yeah. Does that feel complete for you for now, Siva?
Okay.
Okay, Donna?
I choose not to turn on the video because my resources are scarce right now. I want to use them on something else. I hope for understanding and acceptance, and just want to add to the let's say the mosaic of different experiences connected to Halloween. And I see that some of you are enjoying this idea of celebration and dressing up. And I live in South Korea. And for me, it's right now it's days of deep mourning because on Saturday there was a Halloween parade and kids. For me, it's like my children's age, more than 150 people. They were just crushed in the human stampede. So I'm saying this not to feel anybody guilty about what you are experiencing right now. Maybe joy and playfulness. It's just to add my experience of this right now. And I guess for some years to come, Halloween is gonna be a very mixed up thing for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, you're welcome, Donna. I'm glad you mentioned it. And I'd just like to maybe encourage us all to just take 1 minute to mourn together. Mourning's such an important part of nonviolent communication practice. And there are two tragedies this weekend that, among the many others, but two that hit the news where I live. One in South Korea that Donna just mentioned, another in India, both involving young people that lost their lives. Let's just take 1 minute to mourn together, if you're willing. Thank you. And thank you, Donna. Vera? I see you unmuted, Vera, but we're not hearing you for some reason. Yeah, there you go. Looks like your microphone just flashed on, but we're still not hearing you. If you maybe you could type something and I could read it for you if you'd like. Because we're not hearing you. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you have a strong enough internet connection to come through, Vera. We're not hearing you. I'm sorry about that. If you want to log off and log back in again, you can try that. Okay, I see that that's all the hands that were raised. And I think Rob had his hand up earlier. Rob, is there anything that you would like to say? I'm tracking that you had your hand up.
Yeah, Jim, is tonight's topic about intuition? Did I hear that?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think that's really kind of curious because it seems like a knowing. So how would you talk about it? So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about something that's kind of mysterious and innate or something.
Yeah, me too. I'm really curious too to find out. But we'll find out what happens.
Okay.
I'm gonna relate it to what we've been doing, which for those of you who have been with us for the last few weeks, we've been working on how to respond to difficult messages, and then we've gotten to the point in our practice where we focus first on self-empathy, and then last week we worked a little bit with the choices that we have about now that we've gotten ourselves got our giraffe ears on. Now what do we do? Do we do honesty or do we do empathy? And sometimes we get hung up with what should I do, which is the opposite of intuition. When we try to imply comply with some kind of a rule that if this happens, then I should respond in this way. And so today I'm hoping to inspire people to trust yourself, to trust your own intuitive energy that comes up. And so that's what we'll be working on today. So Vera, do you want to try again one last time before we start the lesson? Want to try unmuting yourself one last time?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, right now we can hear you. Let's see what you want to say.
Yeah. I think I'm clouded with two strong emotions. One with Halloween, that in India incidents happen. Yeah, so, but I think this is something that I'm sitting with it deeply clouded and heavy-heartedness now. And it's what the power community and sitting together this morning. Yeah, the second is about that we had three of us in the breakout room. All of us are audio only, not on video. So, but there is some sort of resonance and sharing, empathy, sensitively holding each other tenderly. I think we all had a brief but effective moments of empathy, and there's a lot of gratefulness, gratitude came up in the room, having heard and having shared. Yeah, it was wonderful experience to be there. Just wanted to name it and
Yeah. Thank you, Vera. I'm savor that you had that experience.
Thank you for the forum and all of it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have time to go back to another room and talk about what we're going to practice today, this idea of intuition. So the idea today is to focus on 4 key skills to awaken self-trust. We seem to live in an age now, Marshall called it domination systems. And I sometimes call them a domination system. I also call them authoritarian systems, where and that can be anything from governments to institutions and so forth, where there's this idea of that there's some kind of power over that knows what we should do, and then we're educated in that way. And the effect of that kind of an education is we lose our self-trust. We think we should become rule followers. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with rules. It'd be hard to play a game of cards without rules. But there's a difference between fear of authority and not having any self-trust, and respect for authority, which can include self-trust. So we're going to be working on developing more self-trust today. That's the idea. Because I'm a big believer in liberation at all levels, kind of in intrapersonal liberation, to become free of emotional bondage that we have gotten from the systems that we've been impacted by, to interpersonal freedom, so that there's a sense of connection and freedom amongst us in relationship, and then to create social systems that awaken liberation and freedom for all of us, so that we can create a world where more needs are met at less cost. And all of NVC for me starts with zero, what we call the zero step. And let me just explain that and review it for those of you who have been here before. It begins with where we place our attention. Everything about nonviolent communication happens in the present moment. And these four components that Marshall Rosenberg identified, observation, feeling, need, and request, are all, for me, they're like gateways to presence, to bringing our attention to the present moment. And then the second aspect of this thing we call the zero step is the intention to connect to yourself, in this case, or the intention to connect with other people. We're going to start with ourselves today, but sometimes we also develop an intention to connect with others or with the systems that we're working with. And when we do that, there's a natural opening to outcome. We become curious about what's going on, and we become open to learning, and we also become open to sharing what we think might influence a system or a relationship to meet more needs with less cost. The other nickname for that is putting on giraffe ears. So when we have our giraffe ears on, then we're naturally present, we're naturally want to connect, and we're naturally open to outcome. So to practice, think of a time when you followed your intuition and it contributed to well-being. Think of a time when you followed your intuition and it contributed to your well-being. And write it down. Write down the observation. This is where practice often begins in nonviolent communication. I'll put it into the chat for those who might like that. An example for me recently would be I was just sitting there minding my own business, so to speak, and I suddenly had this intuitive feeling that that was directing me to call my uncle. And my uncle is only 6 years older than me, so he's practically my contemporary, but I hadn't talked to him in a long time. And so I felt that urge to call Uncle, and I did it. So it's just that simple, just one line. I called my uncle. And it ended up working out well. We had a wonderful conversation. Sometimes people like to put their observations into the chat. You're welcome to do that if you would like, along with the other parts of the process as we keep going through it. I'll be quiet for another minute or so while you think about it. If you can't think of a time, you can imagine a time in the future when you might follow your intuition, or maybe you have a wish about following an intuition. Second part would be to describe the intuitive feeling. Everybody, there's 30 or 40 people on the call, and there might be 30 or 40 different descriptions of what intuition means to you. So describe what it's like for you, and you could talk about the sensations that you notice in your body. Since we're talking about a feeling, it's going to be something that's going to be at the level of sensations and emotions. What did you notice? In my case, I kind of noticed I'd call it an urge, but I noticed this urgy kind of feeling in my chest. It was almost like a nudge somehow. It was like a nudge. The nudge was like a gentle push to get me past resistance, because I'd had a story going on that I should call uncle, and I just hadn't done it. And so I decided to just let it go when these urges would come up, when these thoughts would come up about should. And then one day I just noticed the urge was there. It was like this gentle push in my chest area, with a feeling of openness in my belly. And I could also feel kind of a warmth in my throat. And then I started feeling the emotion of curiosity and excitement. So when I slow it down and actually examine what intuition feels like in this particular case, I notice these sensations followed by the emotions of curiosity and excitement. Yeah. What's it like for you? This is practice of this skill called feelings awareness. Many of us have had the experience of not knowing what we feel, and the antidote for that is just to start practicing noticing it whenever you can. Not out of any energy of should, but out of a sense of wonder and curiosity. What's going on in my body? These feelings, the sensations and the emotions that we have in our body are indicators. They're like the lights on the dashboard of a car or the instruments in the cockpit of an airplane. They're giving us information about the status of ourself, specifically about needs. So the third question then, what's important to you? What are these sensations and emotions telling you is important to you? That's one way of thinking about needs. What's important to you? What's motivating you? So sometimes it's helpful to look at a list. So I'll put one up on the screen for a couple of minutes. In my case, as I follow that feeling of curiosity, excitement, that urge, it's really about connection. It was about affection. I love my uncle, and there was a kind of a longing in me to connect again. About 30 more seconds to just hang out with these needs. You might notice layers of needs. Maybe not. I just noticed like another need for celebration come up and a need for play. He's quite a funny man, my uncle, in my judgment. There's also kind of a need, not really on this list, but it's related to the need for community. He's family. He's the last surviving member of my mother's generation. And so I just, it was like I wanted to somehow include and commune with him. Fourth and final question in this round. What requests did you make of yourself in the service of those needs? Maybe you made a request of somebody else that came out of your intuition. In my case, it was a request of myself. It was to pick up my phone as soon as I got to the place where we were going. We were in the car. And as soon as we arrived, I made a request to pull out my phone and look up his number and dial it. Simple, clear, concrete request that I made of myself. Dial the phone now. See, requests are always in the present moment. So if you followed your intuition, there's very likely some kind of a request that you made of yourself or somebody else. As you kind of think about it now, you might become aware of other requests that you could have made that might have even enhanced it somehow. You could add those requests as practice as well. Monica, I see you have a hand up. If it's been there for a while, I'm sorry I missed it. I was looking at my screen, my slides. Monica, go ahead.
I just put it up. So for example, for me, when I was doing mediation with my students, the requests were always for the future. We did that because when we had it for the present, they would say, no, I didn't do that. Like, would you be willing to say only positive words? They said, I didn't do that. They got stuck in thinking they were getting blamed. So we said, for the future, would you be willing? So I'm curious, you say they're in the present moment. So I'm a little confused. So I wanted some clarity on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So the way that I would frame what you did was you asked people in the present moment to make an agreement about the future. So what the present request was, would you be willing to agree that from now on you will fill in the blank with whatever it is? That's really one of the heart places of mediation, not hard places, the heart places, is that mediation agreements tend to be more about from now on. But it begins with making an agreement in the present moment. Does that help, Monica?
Yeah, so I guess what we were doing is okay. That's kind of what I was asking.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, thank you. Just got the clarity. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone like to share what you learned about your intuition? Any celebrations or mourning about what you noticed doing this practice and noticing your intuitive skills? Yes, Eva.
What I noticed is a different slant on needs. I thought it was, I have needs, but the way you've been talking about it, it seems like, yes, I have needs, but I pick a need, and in service to this need, you said, you sort of phrased it that way, and that was an eye-opening observation.
Yeah.
That you're servicing a particular need.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
And this is how I want to, like you go to a gas station, you say, I want this grade of gasoline, and I need so much of this grade of gasoline. So you're pulling up, asking life to serve your needs, a particular need, and you're saying this grade of gasoline,
Yep.
this grade of kindness, this grade of attention, this grade of goodness would fill up that need. It's such an interesting way to see things.
Great. I'm glad you connected to it. Thank you. And Rob?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, I had planning a longer trip with my girlfriend's family, and I knew my need for choice was not going to be met. In fact, I knew I didn't like them that much, so I knew there was going to be problems. And I guess with intuition or valuing myself, I decided, hey, I would like to add another week to the trip and just go by myself to where I wanted to go. And that relaxed me with going with them, because I was always aware, hey, this is not working out. I knew it wasn't going to work out, but it's family, and but I have that extra week. So I met my need for choice and valuing myself, and also need for keeping the family going. Although after that trip, I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So you followed your intuition in the service of needs, and you found out that you contributed to the needs that your intuition was leading you to.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not, you know, intuition is a funny, I know it's supposed to be of the moment. It was more like over time, but yes, it was definitely connecting with my inner value. Self-trust. I like that. Self-trust and inner value for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, beautiful. Great. Thanks, Rob. Uh,
Sure.
Sarah Joy?
I see Vera's hand up in front of me. Is that for before or is it for now?
Let's find out. Vera, you want to go next? If you're talking, we can't hear you. Let's come back to Vera after we do you. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I think she can go. I can wait. I mean, yeah.
Oh, you're going now. You're coming in clear. Go ahead. We'll finish with you first. Go ahead, Vera.
Yeah, I think the to me the intuition is like a mother, as a father. So which is always guiding me, and there are cases where I have not heard. There are cases where I've heard it, and it has truly helped me in my life. So yeah, I have such a gratitude to this intuition process,
Yeah.
intuition by the blessings, of intuition as an intelligence within my body that is guiding me, nourishing, nurturing, and caring me. Yeah. So, and then this exercise that we did has further deepened my appreciation and my gift that I'm blessed with intuition. So I just wanted to name it, and I'm speechless in knowing the power of intuition and how it is serving me all through, though I know or I do not know about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm catching your gratitude for this link that we have to self-care and self-trust. Sarah Joy and then Savitri.
Yeah, thank you, Vera. Thank you, Jim. I was invited to two weddings at the same time during COVID. People finally got their plans together, but didn't consult each other in the family. And the weddings were my niece in the UK and my cousin's daughter in California, a week apart. So I had to choose. And I was feeling at first a little nervous and uncomfortable to let my cousin's daughter know that I had chosen my brother's youngest daughter and had already said yes before I found out about hers. And but I wanted to do it in a timely manner. And so I just kind of looked inward and listened. And then I guess I was pulling out my needs um, because I wanted her to know that I wanted to celebrate this occasion, so celebration, and that she mattered to me. Um, and I had so much joy for this reunion, this union, and sadness in not being able to attend. And when I told her that, she was totally fine with it. So I was grateful for the timeliness of my saying it and not waiting, even though I was, a little bit afraid of how she might respond. I still went ahead and called and contacted her, and then found out that for wedding gifts, she wanted people not to give actual gifts, but to contribute to some type of fund, charity. And so I just gave a gift of Meals on Wheels to feed
Nice.
people in her
Yeah.
area where she lives in California, to feed some people. So
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah Joy.
I
What
sent
I
it.
love, what I love about your report is that your intuition had like a process to it in a way. And one of the steps that your intuition guided you to was to reach out and connect, to actually use your honesty to express what was alive in you. And what, even though you were a little bit apprehensive, it sounded like, about calling and how the message might have been received, you found your willingness to do it anyway. And it ended up being connecting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Great. Savitri and then Leslie.
Hello.
Hi.
Like the exercise was wonderful because I was able to get into my feelings, what I go through before I get an intuition. And one feeling which I wanted to share is that I can see a kind of restlessness and dissatisfaction in the present state. And then some ray of light, a hope, or a way comes in, a guidance comes from within, which would take me to the next level.
Yeah.
And I've been following this intuition, and it has helped me great in a many ways. Like I have a holiday, and then I just see what I need to do, and then I can see the restlessness or dissatisfaction, and what would give me more completion. And then I choose to go and visit a friend or go to a place and do some meditation or a group exercise or something, and that gives me immense satisfaction. So that's what I wanted to share. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Savitri. And we'll finish with Leslie and then go on to the next piece. Leslie?
Yeah, I value my intuition, but I find it's not always right. And I'm wondering what to do about that. And I don't know until after the fact, if it was a valid intuition or not.
You must have been following your intuition when you raised your hand, because guess what the next step is? Yeah, you're right. You're right in the intuitive intuitive flow here, because the next part of the process is, what if you follow your intuition and make a mistake? We'll call it a mistake, and I use that word with intention, because mistake, it's like, take one, okay, I tried that and it didn't end up working out the way that I had hoped. That's certainly possible. I don't know of anybody that's 100% with any kind of a strategy, intuitive or otherwise. And so describe a time when you followed your intuition and it didn't contribute in the way that you were hoping for. What happened? And this happened to me just the other day. Jory got some medication, and I wrote some instructions. My intuition was to support Jory in clarity. I would write the word face on this cream. So just for it was my intuition. Just write the word face in the support of the need for clarity. And it was actually coming out of, like somebody said a minute ago, it was coming out of a bit of a painful place, because I was worried. I was worried that this particular cream could get, for the face, might get mixed up with other creams that are used for other parts of the body, and I was anxious about it. And so my intuition said, okay, well, why don't you just label it? So that's what I did. So now you write down a time when you followed your intuition and it ended up, you end up labeling it as a mistake. So now, now we'll practice what we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. Most of us, I don't know about most of us, let's say I've noticed it is a pattern in myself and in other people that when we make a mistake, we often judge ourselves. We might have a story that we shouldn't make a mistake. So how can we use self-empathy to do some healing and mourning when we make a mistake? So we're going to have a reaction. We find out, I found out from Jory that she didn't like the idea in the moment of me writing on this medication. She would have preferred that I ask before I did it. And so my first reaction was a little bit of jackal ears out. My jackal ears out was something like, can't you just see I'm trying to help? Why are you spanking me for doing the dishes? That's an old programming that I have, that if I do something in the service of you, Jory, mom, dad, whoever, that you should appreciate me. So there's all kinds of should energy. So just go ahead and let yourself enjoy that jackal show, jackal ears out, blame the other person for the mistake, just for about 1 minute. Just write out whatever comes up for you.
Does it have to be a jackal out? Can it be a jackal in as well?
It will do both. We'll start with out. And
Okay,
then, and
thank
if
you.
you want to start with it and then do out, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
So in my case, I tend to do jackal ears out first, but I never say it. I've been too well educated to ever say my jackal, so I just keep that internal because I'm a little guy. I don't want to get beat up. I know Jory's never going to beat me up, but like I said, this is old stuff back from being 4 years old, 5 years old, where we learn these reactive patterns. But I'm really good at putting my jackal ears on in. So when we put jackal ears in, now we're blaming ourselves. We shouldn't have made the mistake. So how do you talk to yourself when you've made a mistake and you think you did something wrong? Mine was something like, she's right, you should have asked first. You shouldn't go impinging on other people's property without permission. You should tell her ahead of time before you do something like that. All these shoulds, all these rules. Let's go ahead and write a few of those down for a minute or so. You can go ahead and finish the one that you're writing down now, if you're still writing. Some people might wonder, why do we do that? Why do we give space for these jackals? And it's really a part of mindfulness or self-compassion. We're doing it anyway. So it's a way of activating our giraffe skills, our NVC skills, to do what we're doing anyway, but to do it more consciously, to actually see that we're doing it, because then it opens up the door to go to the third phase, which is to transform the reaction into a response. So we consciously take our jackal ears off and consciously put our giraffe ears on. And again, we start with the order is really up to you, but we're just learning it in this way because it's the way I learned it, and it really works for me. So I start with giraffe ears in. It's an easy jump for me to go from jackal ears in to giraffe ears in, because I'm probably noticing I'm feeling guilt, shame, embarrassment, something like that. So I start with just noticing what I'm feeling. This is that going back to the body again, noticing sensations and emotions. Even though what you're practicing with probably happened sometime in the past, it's likely that you're feeling these feelings at some level now. So it's very present. It's really supporting you in building the capacity in your brain to be able to do this in real time, in present time, in the moment when you're practicing like this. And then you link the feelings to needs. And you could ask, what's important to me? In my case, it's something like respect, consideration, care, cooperation. What's it about for you? What's the need that's underneath your shame, guilt, embarrassment, whatever it is for you, whatever the feeling is? When we have given ourselves sufficient self-empathy, which maybe you've done it, maybe you haven't. This is very brief, kind of blasting through this quickly for time. Now, perhaps there's a willingness in you to consider what's it like for the other person that was impacted by your behavior. What do you imagine they were feeling when you did what you did? Maybe they told you what they were feeling. Maybe they didn't, but you can still make a guess. In my case, I'm guessing that there was some irritation, some annoyance that might have been going on in her. The way that I make that guess is because I put myself in her position. If that had happened to me, I guess I'd feel annoyed. I'd feel irritated, angry. So if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for her. It's kind of one way of looking at empathy. It's a way of, if that happened to me, how would I feel? And then you can take it deeper and consider why. Why do I feel that way? Feelings always point to needs. So now I'm using my empathic power to guess what need might have been alive in the other person. Respect, consideration, cooperation. These are sounding very familiar. Often they are the same needs, not always. But conflicts are at the level of strategy, not at the level of needs. That's why the needs might show up as the same, both in you and in the other person or people. But the strategies were different. The preferences were different. So this may or may not have been enough time, but I want to make sure you have a chance to talk about it with your friends, to talk about, and so we're going to go back into small groups now. And here, the suggestion is that you share what your experience was of noticing your mistake, and then using the self-empathy process, using the 4 ears to get connected to first your needs, and then to get connected to the other person's needs. What's that like for you? Did you learn anything? Did it work or did it not work? Whatever is alive in you. We'll do it for, what I set it for? I set it for 13 minutes. So that'll be a total of 14 minutes because it'll be 1 minute at the end. Okay, so I hope you enjoy connecting with some friends about what your experience, and you can talk about this particular exercise, the mistake exercise. If there's nothing alive in you about that, then you can talk about your experience in the first exercise when you're celebrating following your intuition. Your choice, whatever's alive in you. I'll see you back here in 14 minutes.
Into
Okay. There you got interrupted again, probably. There you were right in the juiciest part of the whole little practice group, and then boom, you lose your place. We'll keep those little groups alive. So at the very end of the call in 20 minutes, you can go back and say goodbye to folks if you need to and finish up anything. So welcome back, and love to hear any feedback about what it was like for you. Nikhilananda?
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for saying Nick, though I prefer Nikhilananda. I really appreciate hearing that from you. It was sweet. So I've got the same challenge that I've had for the 6 or 7 years that I've known you and I shared with you. And I appreciate your comment a few weeks ago about that I'm in this world. Because without going into detail, and this is what I shared in my group, and there was only 2 of us, I have attempted to have communication with some people who I considered friends or close acquaintances prior to all this stuff going on. And I just hit a wall. Now, I'm not an expert on utilizing NVC correctly, whatever that means. So I've attempted to broach communication, not being attached to the outcome, which I'm not, and not to hog the time now, I get to the fact, like these 2 different people that I'm thinking of most recently, I will have next to no communication with now because we are on 2 different reality worlds of what's going on today. And I don't mean just on Maui, but this is where you and I live. And so, I've got there's 1 more week of this going on. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, that I have the same challenge that I've had for so long in this world, sharing with people whose seemingly reality, including my reality, let's take it with me. Giraffe ears in. My reality is antithesis to what they believe is truth.
Yeah.
And so the communication is, and I was really clear with my needs: honesty, well-being, authenticity, peace of mind. They just came up like, it's a challenge for me. My need is that having a meeting of agreement,
Yeah.
and it's just not existing today. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's
I really
yeah.
I really catch
Thank
your.
you for listening.
You're welcome. I really catch your, what I'm catching, Nikhilananda, is a longing for common ground. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
Yeah. And is there also some mourning in you that you have the willingness to try to find the common ground, and sometimes you don't feel met in that desire to have common ground? Is that right?
I would try to think of another adjective besides sometimes, closer to always, but
Yeah.
sometimes will work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know me, I'm outspoken and I share. And of course, in this world, it's look at me, look at me. You need to, you know, it's the world exists with just someone checking a box on a
Yeah.
piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I share your mourning, Nikhilananda. Thank you for bringing it up, and I think it's a challenge that we all probably face in these polarized times. And we live in a 50-50 world right now, and finding ways to reach out and connect with folks on the other side is a big challenge for all of us, I imagine.
I'm going to make one 30-second addition. The person I chatted with in the private room when I was sharing this, what was really great is they shared with me they're oblivious to a lot of the stuff that I was sort of alluding to. And I said, no, I am so happy for you. Don't live in this world, because you don't need to know what's going on, sort of the negative energy. And so I was really, because they mentioned not being close to family and all that. And I says, no, you know, part of me had this longing, wow, I wish I was there, you know, and I'm not. But anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Nikhilananda. Rena?
Yeah, this exercise brought me some new clarity, or that, you know, this 4 years, sometimes when I'm at the giraffe years out, and I think I am kind of ready or curious about the other person's, what's going on in them. I get into a nuanced, like a jackal year out, you know, there is a bit of, like still the thoughts preoccupying my exploration of their feelings and needs. And I realize that, you know, this is hard, and I have not done maybe enough self-empathy. So I either go back to self-empathy, or I just jump back to jackal out, and just internally.
Yeah.
I want to kind of, you know, get to the, it's layered. So maybe I want to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And that's where jackal out helps, in a safe space, maybe with an empathy buddy.
Yeah.
And there, then I can move to stimulus. What is the one statement or one thing, like, you are unreliable? You know, that can be a trigger, like a stimulus. And then I can say, okay, let me go to the cause. So again, you know, it's a little bit of mix of things, but there's yeah, just being, I think what I'm saying is I've now, I'm appreciating myself to some extent for being present to where I am.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, and trying to accept where I am.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm work in progress.
Steps towards self-compassion and self-understanding.
Yes,
and
self-acceptance.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for sharing, Rena.
Yeah, but staying with the process helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And taking lots of zero steps and self-care possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Rob?
You know, Jim, I was going to make some joke about intuition, but, you know, it's getting later. I think people are going to start dropping off, and don't want to talk about the time, maybe changing the time.
Yep. Yep. I'm going to go just listen to these last two folks. Then that's what we're going to do, Rob. Thanks. So if
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to talk about time change here in the United States in just a couple of minutes, and go first to Monica and then Shamata.
I just wanted to say I'm really appreciative, Jim, of all these lessons, and because I'm a spontaneous person, and also being in the classroom, problems need to be solved immediately, and in the outside world with adults, things take longer and things take more time, and so I'm appreciating these lessons and forcing me to slow down and do self-empathy and get empathy from another. Like, I actually took a week till I talked to a person about something. So yeah, I'm really appreciating the lesson. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm glad you're taking Marshall's advice, which is take your time. Take your time. What's the rush? Shamata?
I connected to what Nikhilananda said, and also it was my own talk in the group, my smaller group. So I just want to understand a little bit more, how do I settle this? So for example, if I have this, I did something intuitively and my longing for trust wasn't met. Somebody said something, they didn't do it. Then when I look at their needs, I see, okay, they just wanted ease. They just wanted, to have ease, basically ease. They just were doing their life, and that's why that happened. But when I find that in that relationship again, it's not fully clean like it was before. I still have this sort of unsettled feeling about that relationship, and I want to know, is this just, I can just let it be, okay, these relationships are going to be unsettled, because then there's a longing for total peace and total harmony, in the relationship somehow. It's in circumstances where it gets cut off, it doesn't matter so much, it goes away. But
Right.
if it was a little bit more deep, there's a little bit more care or love in that connection, it just is not clean any longer. And then how do I settle that? I understand and they needed ease, but how do I settle that?
Yeah, well, I'm not quite exactly sure what you mean by settling, but I'm guessing you're talking about maybe a sense of inner peace and connection with the other person. Is that right?
Yeah, like it was before, like
Yeah.
the trust, the harmony, the peace that it was before. I'd like to have that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm sensing is that this is what I would call mourning. Mourning is the natural feeling that we human beings have, and maybe other animals too, but for sure for human beings, mourning is the natural feeling we have when needs are not satisfied. And so I'm guessing the need that you're mourning is around connection and maybe some sense of harmony with the other person. And so something has gotten broken in the relationship. And so I always kind of look at it when I'm in this mourning process, that mourning is the middle. And it just takes as long as it takes. And I don't know what will happen. Part of the gift of mourning is that when I'm truly mourning, I let go of any outcome. That's like how I know when I'm on the edge of mourning, and it's maybe going to come through on the other side with something new. So maybe the relationship ends, maybe the relationship deepens, maybe the relationship stays in its current state for 5 more years. I don't know, but I become more open to just being with it rather than trying to be the director of it. So from mourning comes openness, and it's easier to say, especially when it's I'm talking about you and your experience, than it is when in my own life. I don't like mourning. I don't like feeling sad. I want to put things back together again. And so I want to honor that urge in you. That's a beautiful urge. That's what I sense is the urge to reconnect, to heal, to repair. And so from that urge, you can follow your intuition, what might help? What might be, that's the question of request energy. What might help? Would it help if I just did more listening to the other person? Would it be helpful if I found another friend to get more empathy from, and get more insight and understanding into my own needs? Would it help to do some journal writing? You know, there's 50,000 strategies that might help. I follow my intuition in the support of the needs that I identified. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll keep working on that as we go. What do we do once we find ourselves in the middle? Okay, so as Rob mentioned, we're at this weird time of the year in the United States and in Europe as well. I don't think we have any Europeans on the call today, when the time changes. Most of the world, you know, those of you who are in India, I don't think you have daylight savings time. My Hong Kong and Taiwan friends don't have daylight savings time. And so last year we decided, we did kind of a survey, and we decided that we would switch and start the class basically an hour difference from Hawaii point of view. And so I think that's what we're gonna do this year, unless there's a strong objection. So if for some of you, it would mean you would start 1 hour later than we don't change time in Hawaii. So we've been starting at 3:30. And so next week, I'm proposing that we start at 4:30. So that means if you're in Korea or India, you would be 1 hour later, you get 1 hour, 1 extra hour of rest or whatever you're doing in the morning before you get here. For those in the United States, it would also be a little bit earlier. So if you were coming here at 5:30 for, 6:30 for Pacific Standard Daylight Time, it would be at 5:30 next week. So that's what I'm proposing, that we would shift it back to the way we were doing it a year ago. You're shaking your head, Siva. You're the only one reacting. So what are you telling yourself? Can't hear you.
That means 5:30 to 7:30. And the main time that my husband and I are together is dinner time.
Uh-huh.
And he always wants, I'm a night owl and he gets up really early. So that eating at 7:30 is going to be too late for him. And eating before 5:30 is what do you call lunch and dinner? I know breakfast and lunch is called brunch. Lunch and dinner is dinner.
Yeah.
So dinner is not gonna work.
Yeah.
Actually, if we're starting, Jim, if we're gonna start back on our regular time of 4:30, if Siva's in California, it's 6:30.
Right.
Yeah, it won't change our time, Jim, in California.
Right. It wouldn't change your time. That's right. It would not
In
change.
California.
It would be
Okay, so
we'd be
that
at the same
means,
time.
that means that it's 6:30, start 6:30 here. And
Pacific
Jeff,
Standard Time.
way back in New York, Eastern time,
be nine.
It's
Same,
11:30.
yeah, same.
9:30 to 11:30.
But for people in
And
India,
that,
Korea and Hawaii, it would be 1 hour later. But not for people that are changing the clocks.
I see, okay.
Yeah, we lost people from New Zealand when we changed because it made it really early in the morning.
Yeah. So unless there's a strong objection to this, then I think that's what we'll do next week. And we can talk about it again some more next week. Juan?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand. Now my time, my time for your Monday class is 8:30 to 10:30. Since I'm in the Central Time, US. So from next week,
It'll stay the same.
It's the same.
It'll stay the
It
same.
stays
for
the
you,
same.
because you'll be moving.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we don't move our clocks in Hawaii or India or Korea or Taiwan. So it'll stay the same for everybody else.
Okay. Okay, got you. Thank you.
It seems a little America-centric, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Or mainland-centric.
Yeah, it does.
It's Maui centric.
It's Maui centric.
No.
It's Jim centric because
Right.
I'm actually changing our time here, but most people,
Right.
you know, it's about 50-50 on the call, I think, as I look around.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. And what I
Can
like
ask
about
a quick question? You're saying that,
go ahead.
can I ask a- for Hawaii, it does change. We're going
Hawaii,
to
it does
4:30,
change.
right? 'Cause
That's
I'm
correct.
in
We'll
Hawaii.
do it at 4:30.
Hawaii, it changes.
Yeah, we'll meet at
Okay,
4:15
thank you.
for the pre-meeting. Yeah, we'll do it 1 hour later here in Hawaii. But for most people in the United States and Canada, it'll be the same. Okay? Any objection? Okay, it's either a trick or a treat. I'm not sure, but I think we have consent. And we can talk about it more next week. I thought about doing it differently, but I'm following my intuition. To tell you the truth, I'm really following my intuition, and we'll find out if I made a mistake as the time goes by. Okay,
I
great.
enjoy this because I would get more time to fix breakfast. It just
Yeah.
7 a.m. is a bit early for me. 8 a.m. seems about right.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. It would be especially helpful because I know the folks that in India come very early to this call. Sarah Joy?
Yeah, I was just going to say in relation to this, but what you just said, Jim, but also in relation to intuition, I find that my biggest mistake is not following my intuition.
Yeah.
I have this little voice that says, when I do something, it says, no, move it so it's not so close to the edge of whatever, or I should do something differently, and I don't. And when I don't, some catastrophe happens.
Yes,
It'll
yes.
stop or break or something. And that little voice told me what to do, and I didn't listen.
Yes, and it's almost always right before regret. That's right. Okay, so I think we're settled for at least 1 week, and then we can talk about it again if it's alive next week. Because I'll send out a mailing to everybody that gets mail from us, and we can talk about it if we need to. So now I'm going to do the end of the class links, and then I'll open up the groups again for you to say goodbye to folks. So this is Jory's link. If you want to make a one-on-one appointment with Jory, you can make an appointment with that. She does things on a compassionate giving and receiving or gift economy basis. If you want to enjoy some one-to-one time, this is the link for if you're not on our email list and you'd like to be, you can do that. You can get recordings from these calls 2 different ways. One is on our YouTube channel, and the other is at our website, pathwaystoliberation.com. Takes me a couple days usually to get the recordings up. And finally, coming into the holiday season in many parts of the world, if it's a gift-giving thing for you, I'd love it if you gave a copy of my book to people on your list, if you haven't already done that. And so you can follow that link at myinternationalshopping.com and maybe find some free shipping for you. The book is called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication, is the name of the book. And I think that's all of the links. And I saw a request from Caroline. She's looking for a new empathy buddy. You can, an empathy buddy or a practice buddy will be someone that you practice with in the intermediate time between our classes, maybe once or twice a week, something like that. Excuse me. And so with that, I think we're finished for today. And I really appreciate you coming here. I hope you enjoy the week, and that you keep your giraffe ears on, and do more treating, and enjoy the tricks that are played on you. Thank you all for being with us, and thanks for playing. If you dressed up today, I really love that you played with us. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Mahalo nui loa.
Thank
Aloha.
you, Jim.
Bye-bye.